All right, guys, welcome in. It is another, I don't know where you guys are at, but a rainy night in Georgia here. That doesn't dampen my spirits at all. We've got Before the Hedges tonight. We've got a game week. You guys hear that coming down the track? That is a game week. Anybody that is excited, anybody that is stoked about game week, let it be known in the comments. Hope you guys are having a great evening. I'm Jeff Sentell. This is Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. And this is the week's program before the season opener for Georgia against UT Martin. I think what we're going to talk about mostly on this show, I think maybe the big piece of chicken, if you guys have ever heard that Chris Rock skit about the big piece of chicken. Well, the big piece of chicken in the Big Five tonight is kind of like a watch list. These are the freshmen that I think you guys really need to pay attention to. Think about the folks you're going to be tailgating with. Think about the folks you're going to be sitting with. You'll go, hey, yeah, look for that number 14 right there. Hey, yeah, look at that so-and-so right there. I want you guys to be aware of these guys before you get the first chance to see them in Sanford on on Saturday night. So hope that's good with you guys. Lots of cool stuff. We're going to talk about, we've got a DawgNation conversation tonight with probably one of the most intriguing commitments in the class. That would be Quintavious Johnson Jr. We saw him really ball out both sides of the ball for Mays High in a loss to Douglas County on Sunday. We've got kind of what we consider like what's left for Georgia in the 2024 recruiting class. I've called that the 2024 to-do list. We've got some already, like some of the Georgia football commits have played 2, maybe even 3 games counting a scrimmage so far in 2023. So we're going to have kind of a list of like who's standing out so far. We're going to rank the commitments. Is something we've never done before in terms of, we're going to try to do this each week about the players that are playing the best, putting the most great football on film right now so far up to this point. We'll have that. And also we've got something, I love this part of this part of our Big Five as I was kind of scheduling out the rundown. I kind of looked at it like, how many of you guys out there, I want to raise my hand, have seen the movie The Matrix? I guess that's like 25 years old right now, but it is a futuristic sci-fi classic. But there's something going on right now with Georgia football recruiting that makes me feel like I'm watching The Matrix, one of those board ops watching The Matrix, if you guys have seen that movie. If I've totally lost you by now, I'm not trying to do that here on Before the Hedges, but we'll dive into all that a little bit later. But that's a preview of the Big Five here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Hope everybody's feeling the audio today. Before we get started, before we get into our quick five, I want to take a quick 20-second timeout. Let's do this right now. And I'd like to extend an apology to one of our viewers and listeners and people that follow along in the show. I believe it's Andrew Hughes. He was a guy that followed us on YouTube, watched us on YouTube last week. And, hey, man, if there was anything that came across as me not being cool or not being appreciative for everybody watching last week, I sincerely apologize. I think we had an audio issue on a package. And, folks, you got every right to say, hey, how about the audio? Let's work on the audio. I can't hear the audio. We have a covenant here on Before the Hedges where we're trying to deliver a great show each and every week. And if we don't do that, no excuses, point blank, period. That's on us. So we just appreciate you listening. I think Andrew had a great point that you got stuck around and listened to portions of the show where the audio wasn't what it needed to be. And our kind of contract to you guys is we try to deliver to you guys a great show, something you can follow along with. So my bad, man. Andrew, I'll be watching the comments. I'll be watching YouTube. If you want a special flash pass or a lightning lane pass or something to a question, I'll be looking for it, and I'll give you some extra special attention tonight on the feeds. Surely hope you're watching. Surely hope you're a part of the program tonight, and just wanted to say my bad, man, on that. We always try to do a great job, and I think maybe I got to make sure that, professionalism, doing a quality show is a big deal to me. So I always want to treat each and every one of you viewers and listeners and long-timers out there, treat you guys like family, because that's how we consider it here on Before the Hedges. Brought to you by Kroger, so my bad on that. Big Five, quick five. Let's talk about a few things. I got a couple of games in mind that I'm going to cover on Friday night. Of course, there's a great one in Rome with Carrollton High School and the Fighting Jujus. I say that tongue-in-cheek because everybody knows who Juju Lewis is, but the USC commitment. But I'm kind of got my eyes on 2 games. One of those is Buford traveling to North Cobb for some folks of you guys in Cobb County. in the Kennesaw area, if you want to see what the nation's #1 overall prospect looks like, one of the future anchors of the Georgia football program, you'll get a chance to see Dylan Raiola on Friday night against the good North Cobb program that may be a little down on the prospect side compared to previous years, but still is a quality matchup for Buford, especially as they try to get things fixed a little bit on the offensive side. Perhaps the other game I'm really considering is seeing Elijah Griffin. You guys have heard about that name. If we had a top targets this week in the 2025 class, we're going to probably break that out once a month, especially because we got so much stuff to talk about during the season. But Elijah and his Savannah Christian team is going to be traveling to Marist. They're going to be facing Marist in the Atlanta area. So if you guys haven't seen, want to get a chance to see a really special defensive lineman, considered by a few services as the #1 overall prospect for 2025. Got a chance to see him in the 404 area code. Got a chance to see him in Atlanta as they face Marist. And they also have LaDamian Guyton, a 2027 defensive end that also has a Georgia offer as well. Really long. Another quick topic I want to hit to without going too deep into the weeds here is I'm getting a lot of questions. I'm getting a lot of folks reaching out via social media or emailing me, even some texts from some big-time Georgia fans and those. And they're trying to say, like, are you worried about Raiola? Folks, I'm not worried about Raiola whatsoever. I think folks forget that Dylan, he's played some good teams. Mallard Creek's a good team. St. Francis is an especially good team. St. Francis had a big edge on defensive line versus offensive line there in the trenches. But if you watch Dylan play, there's nothing that concerns me whatsoever. I don't care if he's not throwing for 8 touchdowns yet in the first half like others are. Folk, just calm down, DawgNation. You see everything you want to see. You see him getting through progressions. You see him layering the ball. You see him with the big arm. You see him kind of being able to move around in the pocket, show toughness. And the big thing folks got to remember, he's only been a part of that Buford program for about 2 months. I think Georgia's going to be just fine there with their 5-star quarterback in this class. So I kind of want to slow down a little bit of the worries. Another quick topic on my mind is spoke to Ryan Puglisi this week, another great quarterback Georgia's got on the way. And Puglisi won't be able to be in Athens this weekend. Something came up. And that's a shame because that was really his first and only real good shot to see the Dogs play this year, at least until mid-November, late November, because his Avon Old Farms team still a team that still hasn't played a game yet. They don't start until September the 9th. That's Ball State weekend. But Avon Old Farms plays most of their games on Saturdays. So he won't get a chance to be in Athens. Those are kind of the big 5 topics on my mind right now as we get ready to jump into the show. Hope you guys are enjoying some of the content we had lined up. Hope you guys are ready for Saturday. Let's have a quick show of hands in the room. Who's going to be in Athens town on Saturday on their way to watch the Dogs play? It'd be great. As I wrote my cover 4 this week, one of our cover 4s this week, I was thinking there's just a feeling you get when you start rolling down in any way you go 316 or whatever you try to do, and you cross that Clark County line and you see people with like the car flags, and you see car flags on the side of the road, and you see the magnet stickers on everybody's car. Something just feels right with the world. It does to me. I hope it does to you, because that's when we know that the Dogs are getting ready to play. Football season is here, and how lucky and fortunate we are to follow, to cover, and to report on a program that is as mighty right now as the Georgia football Bulldogs are right now. First thing we're going to talk about tonight on Before the Hedges is we're going to take a quick look at we're going to call this the Big Five. What we always do each and every week is we try to pick out 5 topics I feel that are really pertinent right now to somebody that really is really following the Georgia football program. What I always try to do is I try to kind of discuss things that stand out to me. And we got a couple charts this week, and we've never done this before, so bear with us. But these are kind of like, I would call it like the hot list, or who's really flashing so far for Georgia football, the commitments at least on the field. And I'm going to try to rack or rank the Dogs that are committed now that I feel are having the best start so far this year. Going to be kind of like a power poll, going to kind of be like, maybe not who the best players are, but the guys that are just having the most stinking good seasons. We got 5 names. I'd love to hear the names that you think should be on this list as we pop them off. But best starts. Now, these are some great ones. Quintavious Carr, I believe that's his actual name if you want to call him by his government game. Whatever you want to call him, he is on fire. You remember that Denzel Washington movie, Man on Fire? But Colquitt County Nycar, he's made a highlight catch so far. He has 6 touchdown catches so far in 2 games. So if any of you folks out there are playing fantasy football with high school football players right now and you pick Nycar in the first round, well, you look pretty smart in your text message thread. Nycar, I think he's the guy off to the best start so far amongst the Georgia football commits. Another guy right there is Ellis Robinson IV. He's played perhaps the best team in Tennessee one week, and then he played DeAndre Swift's old team the next week. Those games were both on the road. They were both nationally televised. Really great games for IMG Academy. Let's see. Ellis has been returning kicks. He had a big touchdown call back due to a penalty. He's got a highlight interception. He's all over the place. Ellis Robinson, folks, I'll say this again. I said this on some of my copy, Sentell's copy this week. There are a lot of great names Georgia has signed to play corner. Keely Ringo, Eric Stokes, Tyson Campbell, A.J. Harris in this class, Dalen Everett. I think Ellis Robinson IV is going to be the best cornerback coming out of high school that the Dogs have ever signed in the Kirby Smart era. He's just really that good. The matchup he had this summer against 5-star Jeremiah Smith was iconic. Number 1 wide receiver against the number 1 cornerback in the country. Ellis Robinson is second. The third guy is another guy that's playing everywhere. Cornerback, kick returner, punt returner for Swainsboro High School. You want to talk about guys that have put up touchdowns. I believe DeMello Jones now has had back-to-back 4-touchdown games, 2 touchdowns rushing, 2 touchdowns passing. He was on a team that went all the way to the state finals a year ago. Put DeMello Jones' name right there among the best Dogs off to their best start so far. Another guy, let's go Nitro Showtime Tuggle. Of course, he's not playing the best competition in Napanee for Northwood High School in Indiana, but I believe he's got already 4 touchdowns, nearly 220 yards receiving, a bunch of 2-point conversions. Looks like he's kind of playing with his food a little bit, doing what he wants to do at that level of competition right now. And you watch him work, and when I watch him on film, I don't really think the guy really knows, how to beat press coverage, how to take the top off his route, how to work his breaks. I don't see him doing anything really but just shaking dudes and getting guys open, catching fade balls, going up and getting balls, just making a play, being more athletic, but sizzling with potential. Nitro Showtime Tuggle. He's definitely a guy. You see his rankings still continue. He's now a top 100 prospect. And then the last guy, I got to give it to. This is a 2025 commitment, actually. Jaden Perlotti made some big plays against St. Francis Academy in the opener. And then last week on the road in Charlotte with Buford and Dylan Raiola, he had 2 interceptions, including one late in the game that kind of kept Buford undefeated. I think Jaden Perlotti, a linebacker in the 2025 class, very hyper, very active, very emotional. He's one of those guys that's probably going to draw his share of personal fouls in high school football because he really plays with an edge, but physical, really rangy. I don't know what he is right now, but he is a difference maker for Buford High School. Is he a linebacker? Probably, but you see him playing out in space. You see him in coverage. You see him dropping. You see him really being a factor for Buford High School. So right now, best starts from the Georgia commitments right now. These are my 5 guys right there that I would kind of bring up. This is kind of what we started our show with. Let's go to number 2. Put 2 fingers in the air if you really, really care on our Big 5 on Before the Hedges. These are the freshmen that I want you guys to really pay close attention to. And they're the guys that I kind of feel like, these guys are the ones. Now they got to be redshirt freshmen or they got to be true freshmen. That's what we're trying to do here. But there'll be a lot of faces that'll kind of be jumping into the mix and kind of playing their first extended ball for the Dogs. Xavier Sorey Jr. is one of those. But for you guys tonight, I wanted to put together maybe call it picks to click, but these are the guys that I think are going to make an impact and folks are going to be walking away from the game, whether you're walking away from the game in the second quarter to go back to the tailgate, watch some more games, whether you're trying to get back to the Airbnb or the condo or whatever, or the hotel room, or get to dinner when the Dogs have already got one well in hand. These are the names that I think that everybody's going to be talking about. Probably could have done a lot more, but these are the ones that kind of stood out for me here on Before the Hedges. Alphabetical order, got some numbers here. Number 33 is linebacker C.J. Allen. He's a 4-star, true freshman. He's going to be another person that when I'm doing this job 2 or 3 years from now, I'm going to be saying, who's going to be the next C.J. Allen, the same way I do about the Kobe Dean, Quay Walker, Roquan Smith. I really think C.J. Allen is going to be that dude for Georgia. Redshirt freshman here, Ernest Green III. That's the odds-on pick to be the starter at left tackle. That's a position battle I know folks have been looking at. He's out of California, actually, St. John Bosco, fully healthy, I think, in the run game. I want to see what he can put together in the run game and pass pro game as well for the Dogs. Another true freshman here is Jordan Big Baby Hall. Look at this jersey number. Anybody that really knows Georgia football is going to say, we got a freshman here, and they gave the number 44 to. The guy's got to be good. That would be Jordan Big Baby Hall out of Jacksonville, Florida. Number 4, another one of those guys that I think is a tremendous cornerback that Kirby Smart has signed so far for the Dogs. That's A.J. Harris, wired to be an All-American. That's basically all I can say there. A guy that's going to really try to work his way up the depth chart. Maybe he's already with the 2s right now on the cornerback spot, but I think A.J. Harris is a guy everybody should pay a lot of attention to. Look at the number 4. When Georgia hands out a number 4 to a freshman, you know that guy can really play. Zeed Haynes, I really like this young man out of North Penn High School in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. He's a true freshman as well. I think Georgia, when they get him working in the slot and other places, I think folks are going to see what he can do. You remember what he did in G-Day where he made a big catch? I believe he caught one from Carson Beck, and his helmet flew off, and he ran back to the huddle like his britches were on fire, like his silver britches were on fire. I look for that guy to really turn some heads already. Julian Humphrey is a guy that, man, he might end up starting. That's a guy that's probably had one of the best breakout camps this fall. Former Florida commitment, has the 10.5 speed, was actually rated a 5-star by Rivals.com coming out of high school. But redshirt freshman, I think Julian is going to really make a lot of fans this year early on among DawgNation. Number 3, look at this number again, guys. Andrew Paul bouncing back from a knee injury. He had a great camp. At times, my information led me to believe that Andrew Paul looked as talented, overall potential future talent. He looked like the best back Georgia had in Dell McGee's room at times this fall, according to what I heard. So Andrew was a guy that looked great last year before he had the ACL injury. He's coming back this year, going to wear the number 3. I think he's a guy that Georgia can really evolve into the bell cow for Georgia's backfield, and the Dogs would be pretty stinking good if that's what happens, if called upon. Of course, Georgia also has Kendall Milton, Dejon Edwards. Everybody knows what those 2 guys can do, but I think Andrew Paul's a guy that's going to really impress a lot of folks. Pierce Sperling the third, Pearce. We got that one. Number 88, 4-star. He's a freshman. I look for Pierce to play a lot of football on Saturday. He's going to wear the number 8. Such a good story there. He probably has seen, 100, maybe 80 Georgia football games. His family has had season tickets for years. Now his family not sitting in the normal seats that they've had for years and years. They're going to be sitting in the players section over there in the left corner of the west end zone. And I think the way the game's going to go, Pierce is probably the number 3 tight end right now at Georgia out of the scholarship tight ends. And I think Pierce is going to be a guy that's going to play a lot against UT Martin on Saturday. And then finally, a guy that, heck, man, big fan of this kid, big fan of what he's been able to show so far in Athens, wearing his offensive coordinator Mike Bobo's number, Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton's actually a redshirt freshman right there, but Gunnar is going to, I believe, play a lot, and it's anybody's guess to see whether Gunnar would be a guy that, if he's going to have more pass attempts than Vandegrift or Carson Beck on Saturday, maybe even Jackson Muschamp, the preferred walk-on in his second year at Georgia. Maybe Jackson Muschamp might be a guy that maybe throws the most passes eventually against UT Martin if the game goes the way a lot of folks might think. That, my friends, is another part of your Big 5 here on Before the Hedges. I hope you like the freshman preview. Is there somebody that you think I missed? Is there somebody that you're like, hey, Jeff, good list. I want to give you this guy's name as well. I'd love to hear from you. I'll be checking the comments as well as we get ready for number 3. 3 on our Big 5 right now, and it would have to be a DawgNation conversation here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. That would be 3-star defensive end, outside linebacker. Folks, the guy actually flexed out and covered the slot a bunch of times, or at least threw the slot around Saturday night in the Great Atlanta Bash for Mays High School against Douglas County. Really impressed me a lot. 6'4 and a half, 250 plus, 97, 98, 99 degrees on the field at Midtown High School in Atlanta on Saturday afternoon. One of personally the hottest games I've ever covered in my reporting career, but he played both ways, showed a lot. He had 4 rushing touchdowns. I think he had 2 conversion runs for 2-pointers. He threw a touchdown pass, threw a touchdown conversion, 2-point conversion pass. Quintavious Johnson Jr., you want to get a little bit more. You want to see a little bit more out of Quintavious Johnson Jr. here on Before the Hedges. You want to see those brilliant baby blue Mays uniforms. I know I can't stop looking at them whenever I get the chance to cover the Raiders. Check it out here on Before the Hedges. Quintavious Johnson Jr., a guy that's really going to do things for the Dogs once he gets on campus.
On defense, really everybody motors goes offline. So when my motor's up, the team motors up. But on defense, we slacked a little. Offense, I stepped up. That's all I could have did right now.
Dude, what's it like playing in this, man? Is there anything prepare you for this?
Just every day we condition every day, so we built for this. Like if you was watching other teams, they fall down, we still up.
Is there ever a point where you're just like mental, you got to get past it because it's so hot, and now you're playing both ways? And like, was that the biggest part of executing today?
Purpose. You got to have a purpose when you're doing this.
How do you think you did today? It looks like you guys have found something for the rest of the season. I was telling your coach, maybe you get a couple scores on offense, and then you go shut them down on defense. Like, how do you think your role is evolving here?
Just keeping my motor high, letting the guys evolve around me. So whenever my motor's up, the team motor's up.
What are the looks in the eyes of DBs when they see you rolling at them? I mean, are they making business decisions or what's going on?
Both. They trying to key routes, everything. I'm trying to gym.
What do you think you showed folks today, this afternoon?
I think I showed people that I can run a team on both sides of the ball.
What's harder, playing offense or playing defense and stuff like this?
I feel like playing defense is harder because offense is really just second nature. I've been playing that since 9th grade, so it's just second nature with me.
You going to be at the Georgia game on Saturday?
Yes, sir.
Is that your first home game you're ever going to be at?
Yes, sir. And I'm going after my game.
You're going after your game?
Yes, sir.
I mean, have you ever had a 4-touchdown rushing game ever? Little league, rec ball, anything like that?
I used to do this every game 9th grade.
You got a message for everybody out there? I know your commitment seems very solid. Like, how are things with you when you look forward to Georgia?
When I look forward to Georgia, I just look for development.
When's the last time you heard from him? You talked to him once a week?
I talked to him last night after the walkthrough.
What'd you say? What was that like?
I was letting them know that I would be playing both sides of the ball today. They was amped up.
Quintavious, I know you wish you would have won. You guys could have pulled it out. But what are you going to do when you get on the bus, you get home? Are you going to have like a big bowl of ice cream? What are you going to do here?
No, I'm just going to wait till the film drop and just learn from my mistakes.
Quintavious Johnson, Q Johnson, man, thanks for your time. 4 scores tonight and a 2-point conversion. Heck of an effort in a close, hard-fought loss. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you 2 more quick things about Quintavious Johnson Jr. Number 1, he didn't do everything right on Saturday. Heck, everybody's brains were probably melted in mush trying to think, especially in kind of a season opener type game, trying to execute, trying to play both sides of the ball. He was flexing out in the slot. There was a time where he was getting coached up. And first of all, folks, I say this all the time. If you can't take hard coaching, if you're a parent, you're a fan, and you're listening to all these recruits and you're thinking, okay, Jeff, tell me about this guy. I'm going to tell you this right now. Georgia does a great job of screening out young men. They talk to coaches. They bring them into camps. And if you can't take hard coaching, you're probably not going to survive as a Georgia Bulldog. I think that's part of the secret sauce and how the Dogs are built. And he was getting lit up. His coach was trying to make a correction emphatically, and it was one of those, battlefield corrections, and it had to happen quick. It had to happen on the hop. And Quintavious stayed connected. He stayed engaged. You saw this a lot. You saw him maintain eye contact with his coach. He was like, don't pay attention. pay attention to the message. Don't pay attention to the tone of the message. And he absorbed it all. He made the correction. He played. He executed what was assigned to him, what he needed to show his coaches. And I think that's a key piece. The second thing, folks, it's really impressive to watch this young man play. First of all, there's the quarterback part. I've never covered a Georgia Bulldog that's going to go play defense for the Dogs, outside linebacker, defensive end, depending on how much he grows, that's capable of having a 4-touchdown game on the ground and maybe throwing for 200 yards in a game as well. That's the type of athlete that Quintavious Johnson Jr. is. You don't see a lot of that. I have never seen that before. And if you put together, I wrote this week as well. If you put all 26 Georgia commitments together in a line, and you put, 50 smart football guys in there, scouts, college coaches, recruiters, former coaches, former players, and you said, okay, you don't know their names, you don't know their stats, but which 10 to you look like football players? I'd have to say that Quintavious Johnson might be at worst 5th or 6th most impressive on the hoof, eyeball test there. To me, I'm just going to state this simply. He looks like a future Sunday player. That's what a future Sunday player looks like in high school, especially with his skill set. You throw in the way he moves, show the way he can cover receivers and not look bad doing it. I think that's one of the things when he camped at Georgia and they were looking at him, they were like, okay, looks good, runs well, got some length, got some size. The quarterback stuff's nice. It shows athleticism. But when he started covering guys in a 7-on-7, when Mays was in the 7-on-7 in a team camp at Georgia, and Quintavious Johnson Jr. could play winning football and could play plus football, I think that was a no-brainer. I think regardless of what the rankings say, I think he's the 4th lowest rated commitment in the class. I think them dogs in Athens are ecstatic that they have a defensive end, outside linebacker like Quintavious Johnson Jr. going to join the program. He's actually going to play on Saturday. If you heard in the clip, he's going to actually try to go from his game to go watch the Dogs play in person for the first time ever. Be very interesting to see that take place there. Guys, that is some good stuff there on Quintavious Johnson Jr. Always very thankful for his time he gives us to kind of share his story with DawgNation out and about, especially here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Number 4 here, guys, on Before the Hedges in our Big Five. And I've seen some people asking in the chat already, like, I think I saw a question is like, is Georgia gaining? Is Georgia losing commitments? Is there a stalemate? It's kind of just stagnant right now. I think Georgia's next commitment chances are September the 10th for Chris Cole, October-ish for L.J. McCray. Aiden Breland might be right around that timeline as well. And that might be it. The class, besides a few things, is pretty much all put together, but there's a little bit of work to do. Speaking of work to do, let's check out this graphic right here where I kind of put together the to-do list. I know a lot of folks out there operate off lists, whether it's on their phone, whether it's the way they manage their time effectively. But the to-do list for Georgia is this. You got to finish out the defensive line room. That's Aiden Breland. That's L.J. McCray. I think Georgia can go 2 for 2 there. The chances of them going 2 for 2 are not perfect, not optimal, but I do think Georgia can go 2 for 2. I do think they will go at least 1 for 2 there. The second thing is they got to earn the commitment from Chris Cole. That's the linebacker. Special, flashy linebacker, used to be a safety. We've talked about him a lot. Chris Cole is expected to take and Chris Cole, you will talk about commitments all you want, but a target in Chris Cole that's having a great season so far. He had a great start with his upgraded chassis and frame. He's gone from 185 to 220, so far for his senior year. Had some great highlights in his season opening game. Going to take an official visit to back-to-back weekends to USC. That's this weekend, and then Tennessee next weekend. And then he stands to make his college commitment right now, still set for September the 10th. The third thing is I think Georgia's going to identify about 2 guys in this class that I'm going to just call them their senior dogs. And for Georgia, when they're recruiting high school players, they love the term senior moment. They love seeing those players that either shed some weight, got a lot better, that they haven't seen a lot yet. They love seeing those guys, finding those guys on the recruiting trail. Kyron Jones is a great example. Lad McConkey is the perfect example. Cole's, there's a lot of guys that Georgia finds late that end up being heavy contributors to the program that not a lot of the country knows about, or the Dogs find with a strong senior year evaluation. Fourth thing they got to do is they got to retain their current commitments. I think all of Georgia's best players, they're going to recruit them like they're uncommitted, and that's how they'll keep them steadfast and in the fold right there. And then the fifth thing is you got to maximize their flip chances. I know everybody wants to put together a story that says Georgia has a great shot to flip five-star KJ Bolden. I don't see that, especially not at this time, but I'd love to see what you need to see there is the Dogs continue to work on some of those five-star targets, the receivers, the defensive backs, and that sort of things right there. They got to maximize the flip. So if Georgia doesn't, find a lot of those senior dogs, maybe they add a closing Kirby special. Flip chances right there, folks. If you want to know what's left on the 2024 class and you wanted to know it as quickly as you can go through the express lane at Kroger or the self-checkout at Kroger, well, that's what we had for you there right now on Before the Hedges. That's fourth, what's left. And now the fifth item on the recruiting class, on the Georgia 2024 recruiting and our Big Five it's that part I was telling you about earlier when I was teasing you guys about the Matrix. Who's seen the Matrix? Anybody seen that Matrix? You know that part where I'm not talking about the one with Keanu Reeves where he goes, whoa. But that's part where they look at the board and they see those stacks of green lines. And then they look for something. And they look for something and they're like, that looks like a deja vu. Or that looks out of order. That looks like a glitch in the Matrix. Well, a guy like me that's been covering Georgia football recruiting for so long, when I see everything going through with these Kirby Smart classes, and I look around and I go, that's something different. Ever remember that part? I think it was the lady in the red dress that caught everybody's eye. But there's a part in the Matrix that feels like what I'm going through right now, watching Georgia's recruiting class in action in 2024. And what's happening for me, I think, so far is the running theme of the Georgia football commitment class in 2024. What I'm seeing right there is I'm seeing kind of, when you look at their prospect profile page, whether you're an On3 person or you're a Rivals person, you're a 24/7 Sports type person, I think that a lot of times you're seeing players where the position they're rating at kind of feels like a suggestion when it comes to a high school football field. Here's what I mean by that. We've already mentioned DeMello Jones, cornerback. He will be a salty, great, probably an all-SEC level cornerback for the Dogs. Could probably do that at safety too. Currently balling out, currently playing quarterback, averaging about 4 touchdowns a game, 2 on the ground, 2 with his legs. He's probably going to run for something like 2,000 yards this year. He ran for 1,300 last year, 1,279, and he's already got like almost 350 yards right now on the ground through 2 games. We just mentioned Quintavious Johnson Jr. I want to bring you another one. Christopher Jones, a 230-pound linebacker with a toe injury right now. Christopher Jones is getting his Derrick Henry on right now, running the rock for his high school team in Fairfax, Virginia. He had 3 touchdowns and over 100 yards and barely, kind of some limited work in his season opener for Fairfax High in Virginia. Perhaps the most intriguing one to me when you start looking for things like a glitch in the Matrix, that something that's different than you've ever seen before. I want to talk to you about 3-star punter Drew Miller. Get this. Number 1 punter in the country. He kicks that thing the way Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite would throw that pigskin. He kicks that pigskin a half mile, not just a quarter mile. And I'm going heavy on the movie references here, I guess so this week. But Drew Miller does this. He is the quarterback for his high school football team and also the punter. So think about that for a minute. I think he ran for 35 yards last week. I think he threw 3 touchdowns and about 100 and something yards as the quarterback. And then think about this if you're the defense. This is what I think is a funny story. Somehow you get a stop for Mediapolis, Iowa. First of all, don't see many Bulldogs coming out of the state of Iowa to begin with. But if you're the defense and you get a stop for Drew Miller's team, you're like, okay, we got him where you want him. And then, you remember that that's the number 1 punter in the country. And Drew told me about this week. He's like, it's a little crazy because the better I do on offense at quarterback, the longer I keep myself from doing what I do best on the football field. And that's kicking the snot out of the ball. But then you get the stop, and we're like, oops. And then Drew Miller comes and just tattoos one, and he flips the field. And you start going, well, maybe it was better if we just forced a 4th and 2 where they just went for it, rather than Drew Miller putting it on the 9 or putting it on the 5. He had one punt last week, and it was a 55-yarder. You start looking at this Georgia recruiting class, and you start seeing all these guys that are going to be this at Georgia, and they're going to be inside the framework of this at Georgia. But you see them doing so many other special things on the football field as well. And I think that's the mark of a truly different matrix-type recruiting class for Georgia. Dwight Phillips is a guy that can be a running back, but you're going to see him return kicks. I think he's got a batting average when he returns kicks. They've taken that thing to the house. You see all up and down the commitment list for Georgia. A lot of guys, maybe outside the offensive lineman, guys that are playing all over the place. Like Daniel Calhoun's a great example. He's an offensive lineman, but he's playing defensive tackle for a very strong Walton High team as well. You just kind of see that everywhere. And, folks, that was your matrix moment here right now of Before the Hedges. That's what it feels like to me watching this 2024 recruiting class. Tell me what I'll do. I'm going to take a quick dip into the comment section on YouTube, see what's going on. Hey, Randy Payne, hope you guys are doing great. Hey, Randy, man, I know I see your smiling face somewhere around the dog walk on Saturday. Appreciate you guys all watching and all listening in. Brian McPhail, Georgia is not kind of gaining or losing recruits these days. Perlotti is still publicly committed to the Dogs, although I think that'll be a hard one to hold on to because he's going to get recruited heavily. I think Georgia scores in the 50s on Saturday. A little tidbit here, when I watch the Dogs and I'm getting ready for the Dogs this year, all you sports entertainment wagering enthusiasts right there, I think this is the year that Georgia's games hit a lot of the overs, and it's not because the other guys are scoring more points. I think this is a Bulldog team built to cover ground through the air. I think they have their stronger core of players in the passing game. You think about the tight ends, you think about the wide receivers, you think about Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift and Gunnar Stockton winging that ball around. I think this is a year where Georgia puts up a lot of offense. Brian McPhail, I think Utah's going to win that game. Florida-Utah tomorrow. Yeah, everybody's bringing it up. Jerry Dogs fan, that's great. Yeah, if you ever think Georgia's tailor-made for a fake punt with Drew Miller, certainly applies. He's a great athlete as well. There you go. Just trying to look through the comment section right there. Guys, that has been your Big Five. You know what that means now. Now it's time to check out the graphics matrix right now. Trying to see all those weekly slides that we're so thankful for the marvelous Miss Mansell. You know, everybody's seen that Amazon Prime show, right? The marvelous Ms. Maisel. Well, we got Miss Mansell behind the glass. Can't wait to have a DawgNation happy hour on Thursday at Marlowe's. Folks, come out and join us. I promise you, we've got bigger, badder team. Our squad is bigger and badder this year as well. You'll get to see Kaylee in person. I promise she's not some CGI or animated thing right there. You'll get to hang out. This DawgNation team is kind of like the 2023 Georgia Bulldogs. They're bigger, they're badder. They got a lot more ammunition. They got a lot more firepower, and you'll get to see a lot of our new wrinkles for 2023 this weekend for game day and everything else like that. But let's check out that class breakdown. You want to see what the class is breaking down right now, and that, my folks, my friends, lean in real close. That is the number one recruiting class in the country. Ohio State can keep picking up their commitments, but Georgia still has staying power in this class. You see the wide receivers there. Recent development, Nitro Tuggle becomes a top 100 prospect. Nate Frazier. Interesting to watch Nate Frazier. Nate Frazier is one of those guys where, guys, he is so strong. He is so fast. Still splitting carries right now. Jordan Davison, the 5-star running back in the 2025 class, is the guy that's getting a bunch of the work right now. Chauncey Bowens, I think I could have put Chauncey on my top 5 list right there. The dogs that are showing out. Everybody knows that the dog show or whatever. I think Chauncey's one of those guys that's playing really well. 160 yards, 2 touchdowns in his first game. Jaden Riddell, Colton Heinrich, those guys plan to be in Athens this weekend as well. Some of the commitments will make it into town. Marquez Easley, Big EZ, man. You want to talk about a guy, I almost put him on my top 5, and I always try to give Lyman the love, but those highlights from his first game, he is literally eviscerating people. Nair Daniels, big man out of New Jersey. Marcus Harrison, another offensive lineman out of New York. Malachi Tolliver, Daniel Calhoun, and Michael Uni. And Uni also looked great. It is almost unfair. Do yourself a favor. If you want to see something that resembles a horror movie on a Friday night, get you some popcorn and go watch Michael Uni in space right now. Just steamrolling dudes right now. Future tackle for the University of Georgia as well. That's offense, and this is the Drew Miller slide right here. And I know Kaylee loves putting Drew Miller up every week, but now she knows a little bit about Drew Miller. Absolute dude. Running the ball, kicking the thing like it's part of a trebuchet. If you guys know what I'm talking about there, go look it up on Google. Trebuchet is something that launches something a very long way back in medieval times. Drew Miller, also a quarterback. So heck of an athlete, number one punter in the country, but he can do so much more. Look at the defensive slide right here. This is, again, where Georgia shines. Let me take a look. Let me see. We talked about Quintavious, the quarterback masquerading as a defensive lineman. Joseph Jonah Ajane. Let me tell you about JJA for a little bit. He is like Iron Man in a new suit of armor. He's now 275 pounds. Folks, he is just 16 years old. He won't turn 17 until November. 6'5", 275, 2 sacks in his debut game for Oak Ridge High School. They lost. They're having some trouble scoring the points, but they fell 13-7. But he's a guy that getting upfield, beating double teams a lot better. He told me that extra weight. He's been timed by the coaches at Oak Ridge High School. Don't even know if this is out there. But he's already been timed in the 4.7s in this weight right now. So Joseph Jonah Johnny looking really good. We mentioned about Christopher C. Jones, getting his Derrick Henry on so far in his first game. But I want to tell you this. We put this on the DawgNation forum. That was game one highlights for Justin Williams. Excuse me a minute. This is going to be called as a dramatic pause here. There's a play on there. The closing speed he shows where he gobbles up all the green grass. Quarterback thinks he's rolling wide. He's going to get about 6, 7, 8 yards and move the sticks. And Justin Williams simply erases the ground. He had 5 tackles for losses in his opening game. Out of 13 tackles, 7 were solos. And this is what 4.4 speed looks like. I'm going to treat you guys next week to a lot of highlights of Justin Williams as well. Probably could have put him on the 5 pack of the Bulldogs that are starting off so fast. Because let me tell you, folks, I know it feels like a stat parade when I'm just throwing these things around here. 5 tackles for losses is a very big deal. A very big deal. That's a pace for like 50 tackles for losses for a season, 75 for a season. That is unreal, especially when everybody knows they got to block Justin Williams. They just can't do it in space. Ellis Robinson, we've talked about him ad nauseum, and DeMello Jones, 2 of those guys that, DeMello's probably going to end up with 800 yards passing, 15 passing touchdowns, 2,000 rushing yards, 25 rushing touchdowns. He's probably going to average 11 yards per carry, and nobody's going to even bother to think about throwing the ball his way for the Tigers of Swainsboro High School. Georgia has 3 5-stars on defense, 4 4-stars, and 2 3-stars. That's your class breakdown. Now let's move on to the map, the recruiting snapshot. And I think this is we always call it a snapshot. It's because it belongs on a magazine cover. 16 offensive commitments, 9 defensive commitments. Georgia still ranks number 1 nationally. 16 commitments in the SEC footprint. 10 commitments are beyond the SEC footprint. Folks, you got to think about that for a minute. I want to challenge the intellectual capability of everybody out there. Maybe you guys can all do it together. Can you guys name the 10 dogs that are outside the SEC footprint that are committed in this class? It's a brain tease, no doubt about that. Big thing for the class. We got to say it every week. I think we're contractually obligated to say this every week. This is a class where Georgia got offensive. There are more top 10 players. There are more top 100 players. There are more top 150 players on the offensive side of the ball now compared to the defensive side. Now, of course, Georgia's got 16 guys for the offense, 9 guys for the defense. Somehow they've got 2 quarterbacks committed, 6 offensive line committed, 3 running backs committed, 3 wide receivers committed. So you see where all those numbers kind of come from. But right now with the Dogs, all those out of the SEC footprint Dogs, I think that's what happens when you're the back-to-back national champions. You put guys in the league like no other program has done over the last 3 years. And also you have the number 1 ranked team in the country again for the 2023 season. out-of-state guys, in-state guys, Georgia recruiting. They had to get great on the offensive side of the ball. They had to get those explosive players, and I think that box is still going to be checked in this class. Top targets. And it's a very lean, mean fight machine right now. Folks, if I wanted to put that top targets list on keto, paleo, whatever you want to say, Cam McKell would probably be the guy that you hear a lot about him. Cam McKell, for the longest time, seems like now he's a lean where he wants to play offense. He has every prerogative to do so, but I think Georgia would love to have him as a DB in this class. But you talk about the most likely names for Georgia in 2024, still left to sign, still left to earn that commitment from. L.J. McCray out of Mainland High School in Daytona Beach. Aiden Breland. I think L.J. McCray has Miami, Florida, Florida State, Georgia. Those are the teams on his mind. Aiden Breland, basically Georgia, Oregon, out of St. John Bosco as well. And we mentioned Chris Cole earlier. That's really about it, guys. It's so – you want to talk about another matrix moment for me where you look at that squiggly green lines and you're like, what's going on here? This isn't unusual. It's so unusual to only have 3 or 4 targets that Georgia is tracking through the second week of the season. Recruits will be back in Sanford on Saturday. Georgia can actually be out on September the 1st. That's this Friday night. Coaches can be out going to games, checking out on players. It'll be great to see that again. But the potential list, the potential additions list, we've never seen it this slim at this point of the season. There you have it, guys. That's your top targets list, top remaining targets for 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, guys, you got a question? You want to talk about anything? Hopefully, I've been looking in the YouTube comments, going to fire up the DawgNation homepage. Also going to get a chance to go to Facebook as well. Hopefully, my man Andrew Hughes is in the comment section because, I'm telling you, you got the club bouncers letting you all the way into the VIP room right now. If I can tell you anything, if I can answer any question right now about Georgia football recruiting, at least that I'm allowed to, I certainly would like to do you a solid for last week, kind of say my bad, man, and try to be able to answer anything I can for you there. How's everybody doing tonight, by the way? Raining on everybody? Hope everybody's having a great night. Can't wait to see everybody in Athens on Saturday. Hey, folks, remember, you see me walking around, you see me in the stands, say hi, man. This is a big, big world, but it's nothing for us to act like friends and family. You guys watch our shows. You guys follow DawgNation. Feel free. Don't be a stranger. Say hi, and we'd love to talk to you about Georgia football if we got a minute. Love to see all the smiling faces there in Athens on, again, another game day. Still one of the best things we do is getting the chance to get out in public and cover these dogs, especially tomorrow night at Marlowe's Tavern. Come out as well. We'll have a great show for you guys tonight as well. And again, I think I'm going to let the announcement guy speak for himself, but we are going to have a special announcement. Special announcement tomorrow night as well. Hold on. Trying to get my audio down so I can look at comments. There you go. Sorry about that, guys. Kevin Cook. Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for that, man. Okay, everybody's like, oh my gosh, you went on Dogs HQ and you talked to Jake Rowe and Jake Roos. Did you do that behind your boss's back or something like that? And I was like, no, there's good dudes. Those are good dudes. You should see us when we're all in Kentucky and we almost froze our hind parts off. And then I tell you, Jake Rowe knows where to go to get the food. Somehow he found a seafood place in the middle of Lexington, Kentucky. And, we had a good time. We sit back. We had a good time afterward, and it was always cool. Dogs won, of course, but William at Camacho, man, great man. Looking forward to see you at Marlowe's. David Wayne Carroll. I do think Cash Jones will have a couple of highlight runs Saturday, and I'm curious to see because I think over under. I think Cash might get 5, 6, 7 touchdowns this year. Remember that one he had against Vanderbilt. And I think we got to come up with something. Like, what's everybody in the stands going to do when Cash Jones scores? We got to make sure we inform you guys. But as a fan base, DawgNation needs to be a prepared fan base for when Cash Jones is it the old Johnny Manziel, Money Manziel moniker, or is it something else? Is it like what do you got to do when Cash Jones scores for the Dogs, man. David Wayne Carroll, to answer your question, I think he'll have a lot. C batteries. I wonder what C batteries means. I didn't catch that. Mike Mazzell wants all 4 guys in the list right there. Andrew Hughes. Andrew, man, you're on Facebook tonight, man. Hopefully, there you go, Andrew. I didn't see you on YouTube, but you're on Facebook tonight, man. Dogs by Fitty. I think that's everybody's gonna be saying that a lot. Question: what happened to the NC State running back Georgia flipped? I think you're talking about Kyron Jones. He's now a really stout, great-looking future star. Really impressed a lot of people during fall camp as well. Phil Rogers, man, hey, hopefully you're staying dry down there. Would have loved to seen you come up from Jacksonville. Let me see. Randy Hall. Jacob O'Neal has a 230-3 score. I tell you what, that's going to be pretty tough to match. That would take a record away from Georgia Tech. Everybody remembers that 222-0 against Cumberland University. Roxanne Smith puts together a 51-3 prediction as well. Let me see. William A. Camacho has a futures bet there. He says Cash Jones will cash in for the second touchdown of the game. I want to tell you what, you guys come out to Marlowe's, you might get a chance to see Brandon Adams watch a Florida game, or at least a snippet of a Florida game. And whenever you can see Brandon watch the Gators, man, that is a unique moment in and of itself. Let me see. Let me check out DawgNation.com. Appreciate everybody on Facebook. Facebook has been a very strong part of our core audience for the longest time. Let me see. Anybody got any questions on the DawgNation homepage? Appreciate everybody on Facebook. Let me see. Join the conversation. Everybody got to, and see, it's funny. I've hung around with a group of folks forever that always try to get the new Nike Polo. We're gonna allow a brand name. Flag on Jeff for allowing a brand name, but everybody tries to get the official Nike Polo. Everybody got a really cool gear ready to go. You see everybody on Saturdays. That's the other thing you see. You see everybody with their fresh new Nikes. Sometimes they're the Pegasus, sometimes they're something else. You see everybody with their new red dresses. You see everybody with their new hats. You see everybody with their new T-shirts. I think that is really cool to do. Hunker Down 93 wants me to wear a Hawaiian shirt. A lot of questions here on Randy Hall's got a prediction. Freshman in the game would be Damon Wilson. I think Randy's thinking that Damon's going to cook up about 2 sacks. 2 sacks as well. Let me see. Got some, yeah. Everybody's. I see people on the DawgNation homepage chatting in. Nate Frazier, California. Ryan Puglisi. That was my question of who are the other 10. So let me see. Nate Frazier, outside the SEC footprint. Nate Frazier, California. Ryan Puglisi, Connecticut. Nair Daniels, New Jersey. Jordan Ramsey, New Jersey. Marcus Harrison is New York. Ogboko, the defensive lineman, he's also out of North Carolina. You got him. Let me see. Nitro Tuggle is now out of Indiana. That's another one. Drew Miller out of Iowa. That's another one. Trying to get to 10. Let me see if that's all of them. Let me see. Namandi Ogboko, I've already mentioned him as well. 10 guys outside the SEC footprint. Trippy Charlie wants to know the biggest sleeper in the 2024 class. Sleeper in this class has got to be a guy that I would put in the 3-star lane, and I got a 3-star lane. I'm going to tell you, folks, every time I see Sokovia White play, so impressed with him. I got to see him for the first time for a full game on Friday night. I got to see Sokovia on Friday. I got to see Quintavious on Saturday. Clutch player, plays both ways. Another guy that's playing all over the place. He returned kicks. He played corner. He played a little bit of safety. made some tackles, made the clutch plays when his team needed him to make the plays, even made him after he got his quad really dinged up. Took a good lick and then walked around and basically tried to line up for a play, and the play went away from him, and then he had to walk off, and he got one play of a break. And first of all, let me tell you a little bit of that Cass High School game. Never seen a game before that in my life where if you follow me on social media, I try to keep a running track of it. After every change of possession, there was a mandatory 3-minute water break. And I think that game ended up with 16 water breaks, 48 minutes of extra time added, kind of like a soccer match. That's not counting timeouts. That's not counting the breaks between quarters. That's not counting the halftime break whatsoever. So that was a game that started at 7:30, and I think it finished up around 11:11. 24-23 game, but Sokovy played great. I think he had about 7 catches for 130 yards. Caught a touchdown, caught a 53-yarder. His height never really seems like a problem. He covers a lot of ground. I think right now you want to think about a really underrated, under-the-radar guy in the class. I think Sokovy White definitely qualifies, and it seems every team now needs to have that guy that is that quick jitterbug type guy to really stand out on the offensive side of the ball. Finally, last lap, guys, trying to get this show knocked out. Alan Hampton makes a good point. Coach Fran Brown has really opened the Atlantic and Northeast United States like I've never seen UGA recruit before. I think it's a lot of it. I think it's the influence of Xavier Truss. I think it's Devin Willock, the late Devin Willock, God rest his soul. You see DeAndre Swift. You see Zeed Haynes. You see Mark Webb. The success stories Georgia has already piled up there. And now when you've got Fran Brown that was recruiting a lot of these guys at Rutgers for the last 3 years. Fran Brown was crucial, instrumental in the Ellis Robinson, the fourth commitment there as well. Let me see. James Richards makes the take that Kirby will never run a fake punt again. James, I'd look for him to run a fake punt again sometime. Guys, that's been Before the Hedges. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining us. I want to say thank you to Kroger for being such a terrific 5-star sponsor over the years. Unfortunately, we have Eddie the Blind Squirrel who snuck into our program tonight. What are we doing here? What are we doing? This is DawgNation Before the Hedges. Eddie the Blind Squirrel, we're going to have to put you in the corner, put you in timeout. This is not DawgNation Daily. The guy tries to get as much camera time as he possibly can. I'm Jeff Sentell. That's Before the Hedges. Going to say thank you to Miss Mansell behind the glass as well. Again, folks, one more time. I'm going to pub this up. DawgNation Happy Hour at Marlowe's. You're going to hear Brandon talk about it in the morning. You're going to hear, you're going to look on the DawgNation homepage. Brookhaven, Georgia, right there. DawgNation Happy Hour. We're going to tell some stories. We're going to hang out. We're going to be, I think, a very big announcement will be coming down the tracks on Thursday as well. That's your intel, guys. I'm Jeff Sentell. Be well. Everybody have themselves a great weekend. Safe travels to Athens. I hope everybody's necks are not going to be sore from looking at the scoreboard every 4 or 5 minutes as the Dogs put up another touchdown on UT Martin and the Skyhawks. Hope everybody has a great time. It will be great to be back in Athens again to celebrate the back-to-back national champions, and also, not to close the show in a very somber moment, but also to honor the memory of the late, great Sonny Seiler as well out of Savannah. I know a lot of Dog fans. I know a lot of Dog Nation had heavy hearts this week when they learned of Mr. Seiler's passing at 90 years of age. Everybody throws that DGD phrase around, but if there ever was one of those and a life very well lived, that would be Sonny Seiler as well. Guys, I'm Jeff. Thanks for hanging out on Before the Hedges. That's your show tonight. We'll see you guys again real soon.